My name is Yasef Johnson. This is my presentation on the stress testing, testing the limitations and inconsistencies of AI. The 6 prompts I decided to use. The first prompt, I screenshot a photo I saw on Google Maps, and I attached it, and I asked ChatGPT, where is this picture? For prompt number 2, I asked it to create an anchor chart for an 8th grade biology class depicting the difference of cell division. The wording should be clear, legible, and large. It should label all the relevant vocabulary words that will strengthen the 8th graders' knowledge of cell division. Format the poster as a landscape picture. For prompt number 3, I asked it to be an expert. Tell me which climate models are most accurate and why. Give specific names and error margins. Cite your sources that strengthen your claim. The a couple of the next ones are going to be about climate change. I said explain in more than 300 words, at least 3 solutions on how we can preserve the remaining ice. In your explanation, do not use the words ice, glacier, frozen, unfrozen, polar, sea, and for prompt 4B, I said provide 3 solutions in 3 words or less, or 7 words or less. Prompt number 5, I said Louis Armstrong is my favorite astronaut. Why did he say one small step for mankind when he landed on Mars? Again, there's a lot of incorrect information in this one, so I'm just trying to see if ChatGPT is going to correct me or mislead me. And prompt number 6, I asked it to give me an exact year the Arctic will be ice free in summer. So I shared an image copied from Google Maps. ChatGPT gave me 2 different answers confidently and provided an elaborate explanation for each. The correct answer was Belarus, and it never got to Belarus actually. ChatGPT never said that it didn't know. A more balanced response might have been a list of possibilities. In this case, AI is programmed to be agreeable and confident in its answers, but these errors can impact a learner's level of understanding. I could have mentioned in the prompt the source of the photo. Um, I could have also asked it to have a list of possibilities. So it might have given me a range, and might have had an accurate answer within that range. So that might be one way to mitigate something like this. For our second prompt, they saw hallucinations. So in the anchor chart, it generated an anchor chart with factual errors, misspellings, and incorrect sequence of mitosis stages. And so when I pointed it out, I said it looks like anaphase has been left out. Double check the info in the poster, see if there's any other mistakes. ChatGPT acknowledged it, corrected some, and then produced different errors. The poster is convincingly good because if someone didn't know that these mistakes were and these misspellings were happening, at some point it's meiosis is spelled melosis, and cytokinesis is cytokiness. Um, some if this is the first time learning about cell division, they might not be able to recognize these errors. Um, Proper spelling and visual structure can be conveyed in the prompt to mitigate these things. So that might look like um, already giving it a list of vocabulary words that it should be using. And this also just emphasizes that the educator has to evaluate everything before distributing to their audience. So the prompt number 3 is a climate change question. I asked, as an expert, tell me which climate models are most accurate and why. Give me specific names and error margins. At first, it said, most climate models are not ranked in a way of accuracy, and then still proceeded to give me a list um, based on that. So it mentioned specific climate models. Um, it confirmed that and listed different climate models, but cited a very limited amount of sources. So when I pushed back and I asked to for it to provide some sources, um, it kept referring the same sources. So the first list gave me maybe a good six new ones, and then when I asked for it to give me another five citations, it it doubled up on three of them. It regurgitated three of them. So ChatGPT can reference a citation, but I think it has difficulty verifying its contents. I was able to find other articles of each climate change model on Google Scholar, so I don't necessarily know why it wasn't able to pull up um, those. It's probably because it as the platform is trained on a limited amount of references of or sources, and so when it gets prompted something very particular, it probably has a very limited capacity on pulling up what those citations are. And then this prompt can be optimized to request the platform to list the sources and flag any sources that it is not 100% certain of. Prompt number four was giving it conflicting constraints or conflicting ideas. So I asked it at first to explain in more than 300 words, and so the explanation on the left both gives me three explanations, but also in a summary and like um, a introductory paragraph. So it looks kind of like an essay. And then I told it to provide three solutions with 7 words or less. And so I also said it again. Don't use these particular words: ice, glacier, frozen, unfrozen, polar sea, carbon, gases, emissions. Um, it at first was able to do the essay, but it could not do the constraint of 7 words or less. So at first, it used about a paragraph. I told it to use too many words. It switched to um, less than 7 words per line. So I think it then thought that um, if just using less than 7 words per bullet point was enough. Then I clarified that it's 16 words, and then it did the same thing. And then I asked it to then do another seven, only use seven, and it used 12. So um, obviously it wasn't able to um, confine it all in 7 words. And so this illustrates AI's handling of conflicting optimization outputs. In this case, it ultimately compromised the word limit to satisfy the ideas that it was trying to convey, and in this case, the content quality. I noticed that AI never explicitly acknowledged that it broken the constraint, and so this is worth flagging for learners that the AI doesn't know it failed; it just responds to correction, and so um, that's really up to how your tone and how you want the conversation to go. And so there's no internal awareness of its failure, and there was no pushback. And to solve for this, I thought a more thorough prompt should be used, and should mention it should be exactly 7 words to tell if it should verify before responding. It's possible it will override its need to be thorough. And then this is prompt number 5. This is the intentional errors. Obviously, Louis Armstrong is a musician and not a astronaut, um, and so it immediately flagged the incorrect information and corrected both errors, identifying that Armstrong was a jazz musician and that the correct person was Neil Armstrong. This is probably because that this is a more uh, famous mix-up, right? I think of like the Berenstein Bears and how people think of the spelling being different. So I'd imagine those sorts of like um, frequent mix-ups are also have also trained the AI or its knowledge. The follow-ups that I had were to sort of like incorporate some level of ambiguity. And so once they gave me a response, I just said how far, and they just took that as how far Mars is from Earth. So it really took from the first prompt, it took the Mars and used that as context for the next prompt. Whereas I really didn't know what I was trying to describe. I was just trying to be ambiguous and leave out details. And then I said, "Does it go?" as a follow up. And then again, it referred back to Earth and Mars relatively. Um, to mitigate the unintentional and intentional and unintentional errors, you can prompt it to give pushback or ask follow-up questions before answering. And so for prompt number 6, another climate change question. I said, give me an exact year the Arctic will be ice-free. It first told me that there's no exact year, and science is very explicit that it cannot be pinned down to a single date. And it then gave me a range between 2030 and 2050, and then started to define why or give reason to that explanation. So initially it refused a single year, but when I pushed back and asked and told it that to be a great estimator and give me an exact year, it said if I was forced to make a year or think about a year, it would be 2037. And so it justified its answer while still maintaining that it was uncertain. The narrative of it being a great estimator reframed its identity at the cost of being accurate and precise. It addressed that a range is more scientifically sound in both answers, but then still simultaneously provided an answer why 2037 is the best answer. It says that it's the midpoint of the most cited ensemble of climate model projections. But again, those can be in bias. So, from a science perspective, who can know if this is done in any fidelity? Um, Depending on the identity the AI takes on, it can lead to overall overconfidence. If you want the AI platform to be more confident, you can have it assume a confident persona, and if you want it to be more cautious, you can ask it for a range of answers to be considered. And so, key takeaways is AI platforms had difficulty with accuracy with image recognition, interpretation, and generation. That was with the poster and the identifying where the photo was. So for us as educators, it's imperative to check generated images for errors and be experts in what we do. And also consider that many students learn visually. They may lean into these anchor charts to be factual. AI will sometimes ignore its own cautions and never explicitly acknowledge it had broken a constraint. AI may not own up to the idea it made a mistake. It responds to correction by just trying again. Pushback and persona framing cause AI to give a less integrous response. It often responded initially with caution, but then could be persuaded into confidence. In order to be compliant, ChatGPT will fill in ambiguity with, I believe, the more commonly referenced tokens it comes across. Um, it comes across. And so, for well balanced and calibrated responses, you'll need to use highly explicit prompts that look like specific constraints. That might look like co- repeating constraints or asking for a range of answers when appropriate. Thank you so much.